Hello and welcome. Um, Today I'm having a look at the Waterloo campaign 1815, which originally came out in a C3i, a C3i magazine. It followed on from the Gettysburg game, which used the same system. Both designed by Mark Herman, and it intrigued me because although I didn't have the first one on Gettysburg, I've always been interested in the 100 Days campaign as a period of history, and this seemed to be doing something quite different. Mark Herman's approach to the whole operation and the campaign seemed a very different take on it from what I'd seen previously. So the first thing you have a choice of is whether to go for the C3i version, the magazine version, or to go for the deluxe version. I was a bit on the fence, 50-50 really. I do like mounted maps, so in the end I decided to pay a bit extra. It's not much more actually, it's about 43 as opposed to 36 quid for the deluxe boxed version. So you get obviously a box. You actually get two maps, the hard copy mounted map, and also a spare paper map for those that would prefer that, but I guess if you did, you'd probably buy the magazine version. Counter tray, some play aids, a couple of dice. So I suppose weight wise it doesn't there's not a vast amount in the box compared to other games that are out there in the sort of 40 to 50 pound mark. I think one thing I would say, I suppose a minor quibble, would be this is sold as a deluxe copy of the game. Now there were a few non errata which, given that the magazine version came out some time, I want to say at least a year or two prior to the deluxe version, there were a few examples of play which are very useful. I find that a very good way to learn to play a game, except there were a couple of errors, and these errors were still present in the deluxe version. So I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity. It's nice when you get a second edition of a game effectively. I think those things should be caught. The other thing to say was this is a two-player game, and one of the key play aids is the attack summary and terrain effects. There is one copy. This is not a solitaire game. This is a deluxe version of a two-player game. To my mind, there should be two copies in the game as sold. It's a minor nitpick, but hey, it's a piece of cardboard. The game wasn't that cheap anyway. If you're going to stick the word deluxe on your box, then make it so. Now I've got a scanner, I've got a laminator. 5 minutes later, I've got a second copy. Maybe other people haven't got access to those sorts of facilities, and really they shouldn't need to have to do it. It should come with two in the box. The only other little thing I noticed, I bought the deluxe version of the Curse game as well, which for me had a bit more in the box, and it also came with the full counters that had been included in the original C3i version of the game. Now with the Waterloo campaign game, you just get the counters for this game, so the actual full counter sheet that came with the magazine version isn't what you get in the box. And there's a couple of counters on that particular sheet that I would have liked. There was one for Paths of Glory. There's a couple for Ireland 44. So deluxe, I would have liked to have seen us in the box as well. But I think on balance, I'm still happy that I went for the deluxe version. So the big change is the map, which is nice. So what about the game? Well, the rules won't take you long to read. They might take you longer to digest. I mean, the rules are literally 7 pages, which includes, you know, definitions and a sequence of play summary. So the rules are pretty quick to have a good read through. You sort of come away not really knowing what it all means, and then the example of play is useful. There are corrections available on Board Game Geek and probably on Console World that just explain a couple of points that got missed in the examples, but they're nice, full. You can see that, but they're lots of graphics and illustrations to help you understand what is a very different rule set to other games that I've played. So I've played it once, got absolutely mullered as the French, which I think is probably the way it tends to go the first time you attempt to take on the combined Allied Prussian forces. The Allied army does seem quite strong, not that big, but it's what there is of it is pretty high quality. And going for Quatre Bras early seems a bit of a fool's errand, really. I mean, I would really like to play this with someone that knows how to play the French properly. I clearly don't, at least not yet. But I'm having fun trying, because one thing about it is it's such a quick setup. You can play a few turns, realise that things are going south pretty quick, and just do a quick reset, start again. So I think you're left with a decision to not drive on Quatre Bras too quickly. That's my take on it. Which, I mean, does that go against history a bit? I mean, Ney and Rye turned up, didn't they, at Quatre Bras, and there was a definite emphasis in the early hours of the 16th where the French had the upper hand, and then as the day progressed the Allied reserve started to arrive, and I think by the end of the day they were outnumbered. There was about 40,000 Allied troops to about 25,000 French, but in the morning it was definitely going the other way, and I've yet to see that in the game. I think if you just go forward early you just essentially hit a brick wall, because the thing that I probably haven't quite got my head around yet is that movement is not really limited. You can, if you both keep moving, you can keep on moving. So you can move a counter multiple times up until the point when someone passes, and then you make a die roll with a few modifiers, and that's the number of moves the other guy's got to do, that's got left to do before that ends the movement, and then you go on into combat. Once you're engaged, once you're in a zoc, you can't move anymore anyway. You're locked in position until the combat. So your options start to reduce as the turn progresses. But I mean, in terms of bringing on, some of the far-flung reinforcements like Hill's Corps and even Bulau's 4th Prussian Corps, if the French player keeps on moving, that allows the Allied forces to concentrate. So maybe that's where I'm going wrong. They need to do a little bit on the 16th in the AM. There's two. Should have said there's 2 turns per day. So maybe on the AM turn you do a little bit and then pass, and that will limit the allied player in terms of what he can bring to the party on that first turn. But quite interesting. I'll show you the map. I think the map's attractive. I like the artwork. Sits well with the counters. Let's have a quick look at the map. Here we are. So here's the full view of the map. So it's a standard size, whatever that was it 24 by 32 inches, something like that. So I've got the mounted map on the table. You see, there's not many counters. They're essentially core size, the units, with the addition of some of these detachments. So essentially, all 3 sides have got additional detachments that you can position during the detachment part of the sequence of play. They can be recalled later as well, but once placed they can't be moved. So they're weaker in combat, but they're very useful to delay the enemy forces. They've got zones of control, not zones of influence, which is another concept in the game, which is essentially a range of 2 hexes from a core is its zone of influence, and that also has an effect on enemy movement. The detachments don't get the zone of influence; they just get the zone of control, but that will pin the approaching enemy infantry forces. So you can see here that there's a scenario to start on the 15th with all the French crossing the Somme River, but here the majority of the French are already across, with the exception of Lebau's corps, and you can see the Delon is between Ligny and going up the road towards Quatre Bras. There's some engagement starting the approach to Ligny, Blucher, and here is Quatre Bras with Paponchet's detachment, and Rye is under Ney. These HQs have different sides to them. They can be on the mobile side or in the deployed side, ready for combat. So the French guys all start off in their mobile side, where they have more range, whereas Wellington starts off, or his HQ starts off already deployed. Now I was convinced that Wellington turned up later on the 16th. I don't know whether that's a design for effect thing, but maybe it's not him, but it represents his sort of command structure that's in place on the AM part of the 16th. And further up the road you've got the reserve corps coming down, and over to the west we have Orange in Braine-le-Comte, and waiting to come on as a turn 3, which is the turn we're currently on. Reinforcements of Hill, Uxbridge up there, and Bulau, Prussian 4th Corps, which on my first play, I had no problem getting all these guys into battle, because they can essentially move double. So they've got a movement of 4 in their mobile side, 1 once they're engaged in combat. Like Zythan, you can see he's already in a Zoc, so he's also pinned there, and his movement allowance will be 1 going forward, unless he manages to free himself at the end of the turn. So it's interesting. I'm clearly doing something wrong at the moment, but as you can see, it's a pretty quick thing to get on the table. Push around some pieces and try and get your head around some of the concepts. So I'm quite enjoying that challenge, and I look forward to playing it face to face sometime.